June 17th, AEW Dynamite was a strange little roller coaster. I'm not sure exactly how to explain it in one sentence, so let's just run it. We started everything off with MJF and the Don Callis family in the back. MJF was making his decision for who was on his team for the upcoming cage match. He ended up picking Okada, Fletcher, Doyle, Knight, and Andrade. Solid team. Andrade was a little bit grumpy because he still hasn't gotten his world title shot, but it's coming, you have my word, according to Don Callis. So we'll see what happens there. As soon as that was over, we went straight out to the ring where we got to see Kenny Omega take on Tony Nese. We haven't seen Tony Nese in a minute. Dude's still looking fantastic. However, he can't win a match to save his life, apparently, because he got squished in under 5 minutes. And then Omega grabbed a mic, and Omega was about to begin saying something when Zack Sabre Jr. came out with a couple other boys from TMDK. They got in the ring. Omega slipped out of the ring. Omega came back around to the entry ramp, and that's when the Elite, being the Jackson brothers and Jack Perry, came out. They stood on the entry ramp. TMDK stood in the ring. Omega had said his piece, said, "Hey, Zach, I bet you would love to have that big W next to your name by defeating me. However, I don't think that's going to happen, and it'll mean more to me because it not only showcases everything here in AEW, it's also going to be a win in homage to my home away from home, which is New Japan Pro Wrestling." That was just a whole thing. Then Kenny and the Elite disappeared into the back. We went to commercial break. Coming back from commercial, we got a Dogs promo, and that was all fun and good. They do have the upcoming match with Cage and Cope. It's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to see what happens. As soon as the promo was over, we slid right into our next match, which was Mox and Garcia versus Brodito. And oh boy, let me tell you, Mox is looking great. Garcia actually looks like he cares now, which is fun. But Brodito is on another level. The match was mildly back and forth for a little bit, although it's always fun to watch Garcia get stomped into the ground. And I think the moment of the night, not the match of the night, but the moment of the night, was when Brody King and Maria Shafir were in each other's faces, barking at each other. And it was so funny because Brody's got that deep voice, and so he just sounded like a Rottweiler. And Marina Shafir sounded kind of like a Chihuahua to me. It was very funny. She way too high-pitched, putting too much effort into it. It was just such a silly little thing. Brodito ended up getting the victory when Bandito hit the 21-plex on Garcia, folded him up in the middle of the ring, 1, 2, 3. They're showing their stuff. They're back together. The band's all here. Good stuff. Then we went back to the back, and we had Proto Okada. They were hanging out. They cut a little promo saying, "Hey, we know that Mark Briscoe is going to have some friends, and they're going to get everybody together for this big cage match, but guess who won't be there?" And the camera panned down, and Ishii was laid out on the floor, which doesn't track well with me because it's Ishii. He's the Stone Pitbull. He no-sells as his whole gimmick. So for them to have taken him out had to have been like a tremendous amount of effort, but neither one of them looked like they were that out of breath. So I don't know what's going on there. However, Ishii may or may not be in the cage match next weekend. We're just going to have to see what's up with that and roll with it. The promo following that was Ciampa. And once again, Ciampa was like, "I do hate you, Chris Jericho, but at one point, I respected you. The man who traveled the world, the man who took over New Japan Pro Wrestling. Where's that man? I want that man." So once again, I am enjoying this feud that Ciampa is in because we need more Ciampa. However, it is literally kind of following the path that Jericho and Ricochet had. There's got to be something new. The 1004 Reasons I Hate Jericho list was fun. Let's do a little more of that. Maybe not so goofy, but let's make it not so cookie cutter for this feud. Then we got the actual dogs. They were in the back. They were heading out to the ring. They were going to do their thing. They went up to that little table that's always set up right there where they do that weird little pre-match like setup. And Connors grabbed big old box matches, and he lit one, and it was just kind of haphazardly handed to him by the guy at the table who wasn't like paying attention to anything. turned out to be Cope. And Cope turned around and he snuffed the match with his fingers, and then a brawl ensued because Christian was standing right there. So that spilled out into the ring. Big old brawl. Lots of fun to watch. Cope and Cage made statements afterwards. Cage's work on the mic is so much fun, and I'm really enjoying it, the way that he's able to slip in little digs, like your mom type of deal. So fun. Cope was basically just like, we respect you because you're us from 30 years ago, but guess what? We're going to send you home at the end of the pay-per-view, and you're going to have started as the dogs, and you're going to leave as whimpering puppies. And that was very fun, just in general. Then they disappeared, and the dogs had already run off through the audience, and it was just a handful of silliness, which is what we love. Then we got back-to-back promos. One was sent over from Stardom, and it was the response from Starlight Kid to Tekla, and that was fine. It basically just saying, don't spit on our logo. I'm going to come over there, and then I'm going to bring back the title with me to Stardom. Tekla came in right afterwards, and she was just chilling backstage, and she's like, there's no way you're going to bring back the title because we came up in Stardom in the same way, so your efforts and my efforts were the same, but for some reason you're cheered and I was kicked out of the company, so bring it. That sets up the pay-per-view match. Then we finally got another match, which was Mercedes Moné versus Hazuki in the next round of the Owen Hart tournament. It was a fine match. It lasted quite a while. I think it was about 12 minutes, the entire thing. There was definitely a commercial break in the middle of it. Mercedes Moné came out with the victory, which, fine, I get it. She's a big seller, but like, we could have put Hazuki over and shown that other companies do have people that are worth the effort for all this tournament stuff. I think it would have been totally fine to have her go over Moné just to stick it to Moné for half a second. I mean, I'm sure she's getting paid enough. She could have taken the one loss and moved on and gone after like the women's title or something. But she did win. She's going to the finals. It's going to be a thing. And she may end up taking it, which is going to be fine. It'll be fine, I guess. Then we went back to commercial break, came back from commercial break, and Tony Schiavone was in the ring, and he called out Will Ospreay. They had a little moment because Will and Alex Windsor just got married over the last weekend, and he said this whole thing about, oh, I'm supposed to be on a honeymoon, I know, but this whole thing means a lot to me. Made some crass jokes about sleeping with his wife, throwing a towel at her, and then running out the door to make sure he made it to the show. And then they invited Swerve Strickland out, and the two of them met in the middle of the ring and had a very long back and forth. Before Swerve was just like, you've changed, you're doing this, you're doing that, and Ospreay was like, I haven't changed, I'm still wearing the same stuff, I'm still going after the same stuff. I think you've changed because you've turned your back on people. It was a whole to-do. And then Will Ospreay punched Swerve in the face at the end of it. And Swerve was about to attack back with his chain that Prince Nana handed to him when the Death Riders came out, and they surrounded the ring and basically made sure that Swerve wasn't going to pull any shenanigans. And then Swerve was just like, no, I think you're the one that changed. Look who you're hanging out with. And then he disappeared into the back. And then we went to our next commercial break. Coming back from commercial break, the Death Riders and Ospreay were in the back. Daniel Garcia was being a little baby boy, and Will pushed him up against a wall type of deal. It wasn't actually a wall, it was some backstage stuff, but he pushed him up against all that stuff. Mox came over and was like, it's just words, don't worry about it, focus, you know what you have to do, get the victory and move on. And that was that. And then we came to the main event of the night, and oh boy, was it interesting. So we had MJF and Okada and Doyle, and Knight and Fletcher and Andrade going up against Mark Briscoe, Orange Cassidy, Roger Strong, Kyle O'Reilly, Takeshita, and Darby Allin. And it broke down fast and it broke down heavy. There were brawls inside the ring, outside the ring. Everybody was getting their little spot fest moments in. There was a moment where Darby Allin chased Kevin Knight out through the audience, back up the side of the entry ramp, got up to the top. Doyle came over, helped Knight beat down Darby, and then they threw him from the top of the entry ramp to one of the ring posts because there was only about a 6-foot gap. Darby went spiraling out of control, crashed and burned. And it was just everybody versus everybody versus everybody. And it was a lot of fun. But now I'm curious what's going to happen in the cage, because the cage is going to have weapons available. I'm curious if this is going to be like a pseudo War Games, or if this is legitimately just going to be one big cage with all these people in it. I'm hoping that it'll be more of a War Games setup, but nobody's said it yet. So that's just where we're left. MJF did end up getting the victory, and so his team won. Then they cleared out the ring. They put the beat down on everyone. Andrade looked like he wanted to get in MJF's face, and did kind of for a second to try and get his title shot. Don Callis shut that whole thing down. It was a mess, and that's where we ended the show. The entire thing was fun front to back, but at the end of the day, I don't have any predictions for the pay-per-view yet, and I really need to get on that. So post your predictions down below. Let's compare notes. Let's see who's going which direction, and let's have a lot of fun with it. We are 10 days away from the pay-per-view. I'm excited. We've got 3 shows left until the pay-per-view. They've really got to put in some last-minute things to fill the card, but it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm hoping for a Jay White pop-up. He's been gone for a while. Hopefully his injury is healed at this point, and he can come back, get back with the Bang Bang Gang, and they can start running roughshod over everything again. And then maybe Jay White can go after the men's title too, because why not? Everybody else on the roster is. And so let's just add Jay White back into it and have just a blast. So I'll see you guys Saturday night. I hope you're having a great week. Don't do anything crazy. Don't take any wooden nickels. Peace.